Right, hello everybody, Salam, Khosh Amadi. We are so excited to see everybody here for the Stop the Republican Recall of Governor Gavin Newsom, which is hosted by the Bay Area Iranian American Democrats, the Assyrian Democrats of the Bay Area, Assyrian Democrats of Stanislaus County, Iranian American Democrats of San Diego, and the Grassroots Democrats HQ. Today we'll be going over how we can galvanize our community and how we can galvanize our community in support of Governor Gavin Newsom to stop this horrendous recall of the governor. We have multiple guest speakers here to speak to you all today. I am Eshoo. I will be your MC for the event today. I am the Field and Communications Coordinator at the Grassroots Democrats HQ. I'm an elected delegate to the California Democratic Party representing Assembly District 13, which is Stockton, Tracy, Mountain House, and French Camp. And in my free time, I am a student at San Jose State University studying political science. So I'm thrilled to see so many people on the screen getting ready to see how we can stop the recall of Governor Gavin Newsom. So first and foremost, what is a recall and how does it work? So a recall is when the electorate of a certain state, in this case, California, comes together and they decide to recall a person in an elected position. However, we have seen recalls weaponized. Recalls are typically supposed to be used in terms of extreme mismanagement, etc. However, we as Californians know that Governor Gavin Newsom has done an excellent job of leading our state through multiple crises, including the wildfires, the COVID-19 pandemic, and we have even ended this year, ended this budget year with a $75.7 billion surplus, even though we are suffering through a worldwide recession at this moment. We are the 5th largest economy in the world, not the country, but the world, and that is in due part because of Governor Gavin Newsom. We have seen the governor's extensive support for renters, for healthcare professionals, and some of the best vaccine administration in the state, leading us to having some of the better COVID-19 rates in the country at the moment so far. So we know that Governor Newsom is an excellent governor and we need to keep him in office for the next year. So the recall happened because only 1.5 million Californians in a state of 40 million signed a petition saying they want to recall the governor. So now we are paying $276 million in taxpayer money to have an unnecessary extra election this year, just a year before Governor Newsom is up for a re-election next year. And so now we must stop the recall. And we stop this recall by voting no on question 1 on the ballot. There will be more information about this later throughout the event and how you can get involved. But to give us a little more information about this recall effort is Mr. Shahriar Afshar. He is a former president of the Iranian American Democrats of San Diego, and he hosts his podcast, Politics 365. And he'll be speaking to us about who is supporting this recall and who is against it.
Thank you, Mana. It's a pleasure to be here. You know, as a career public servant, I spent 25 years in government. I've always been a community activist, and I just feel our community coming together to speak with one voice, especially during a recall, and as you said, one of the greatest states in the country, a leading economy on the planet, is so important. And I think as a community, we've been blessed with so much that our responsibility to be community activists in this regard is even more important than ordinarily. During my 25 years in government, I learned a lot of things, and I wanted to share that on my podcast at politics365.com. And you can't kind of look at politics and not dive into who's kind of running this show, who's really behind what's happening. There's about 46 candidates, including 9 Democrats and 24 Republicans that are running in the September 14 recall election. The candidates that received kind of the most attention in polls is so far a YouTuber, Kevin Parafith, the loser of the 2018 gubernatorial race, John Cox, who currently runs around the state with a big bear, and he's trying to, I guess, get attention, saying he's a beast and he's a tough guy. Unfortunately, he's one of my San Diego fellow residents here in San Diego, a radio show host, Larry Elder, a Republican, and again, unfortunately, the former mayor of San Diego, Kevin Faulconer, pushing kind of obviously his agenda. He's no longer in office. He left office a couple of years ago. There's also Assemblyman Kevin Kiley, Republican, and former U.S. Rep. Doug Osee. So if this flawed election or recall election goes forward as it is, you could have a YouTuber in charge of the 5th largest economy on the planet, simply because, as you said, 1.5 million of the voters of the last election chose to sign a petition at Ralph Servan's. That's how silly this whole process is. Now, Gavin Newsom has kind of called this a response to, in response to what's happening, really just kind of obviously a Republican overreach. Nothing could be, obviously it's true. It's the anti-vaxxers, anti-mask folks kind of coming together. There is a lot of outside Republican money in this. Now, thankfully, some $47 million have been raised in support of the governor, and only about $4 or $5 million for the recall. So if polling and the money raised has anything to say about it, the majority of Californians are against this recall, pure and simple, as you put it, Mana, so beautifully. $276 million spent. There was $26 million spent on the last recall with Gray Davis, $276 million to be spent in a time in our country and our state where we need to focus on recovering from the pandemic and doing the best we can to help people get back to work. So the recall is flawed beyond measure, and even the California Republican Party, if you check their website, they really don't have a policy stance for the recall. They ask you 10 survey questions, and it includes everything from the governor not wearing a mask at the French Laundry birthday party to some other frivolous reasons. So the people behind this recall really don't have a foot to stand on. I dive into it a little bit more on my podcast, but mostly on, if you go to Politics 365, I wrote a fairly extensive detailed polling and numbers and budgetary analysis using only objective data from the California Policy Institute and others. So you can see it on Politics 365. Please stay engaged, please stay focused, go vote, and make sure this recall gets the attention it deserves and gets voted down right at the first vote. Thank you so much, Mana, for having me.
Thank you, Shahriar, and thank you for that in-depth analysis of who is behind this Republican recall. So now I am very excited to introduce Mariam Ghazvini. She is the president of Bay Area Iranian American Democrats. She'll be sharing a little more about BAIAD, its mission, and why you should join.
Hello, everyone, and thank you for coming. It's really, really nice to see all of you here. And hopefully, as we say, tell a friend. Most important thing is, as Shahriar mentioned, to vote and vote no on this recall. And as many of you know, BAIAD has been around since 2005. We are a grassroots organization in the Bay Area, but we are not discriminate. You can join us from any place in California or other places. Actually, we are really trying to connect all of the Iranian American organizations if they are Democrats. But again, we are open for other people as well. And we just have to show that we are active in the community and we are willing to unite and really become a powerful voting bloc, because if we don't want to do anything with politics, that's our big motto. I don't want to do anything with politics. And I tell people that politics has a lot to do with you. If you don't want to do anything with politics, it's okay. You can stay out there. But somehow, somewhere, politics is going to come and do something with you and your life in your community. Mm-hmm. And hopefully that message gets out. And I'm asking all of you to tell your friends that, because Iranians have had bad experience with politics, and I don't blame them if they have that kind of thinking. But we are living in a society that we have to be active, we have to vote, we have to participate, we have to support the right causes because it's good for our community here. Although we may be connected with back home, but we cannot base all of our decisions on what's happening back home. You're here, you're American, you are going to be an active member of society. So hopefully you take that message to your friends. Obviously, you are active, and that's why you're here. And if you want to join our organization, we are out there on the website, BAIAD.org. You can fill out an application or call any one of us, and we can help you become a member. We really do appreciate you and appreciate your membership. As Mr. Bill James is going to talk about, if you don't become members, we will lose the club. So I hope that doesn't happen, but it could. So with that, I would like to introduce Congresswoman Eshoo, who has been really, really helpful and instrumental in our success. And I'm hoping to continue that relationship for a long, long time. Anna has a little bit of a bigger connection with us than if she didn't have the background that she has. She has a Iranian, I believe, father, and I believe he was Assyrian, right? And Armenian mother, also Iranian, I believe, yes. Correct? So we always tell her that you're one of us and you have to help us and we have to help you. So it's not one-way street. So with that, Ms. Anna Eshoo, and I believe you're going to say something in Assyrian. We asked you to do that. I'm not sure, because that will make Tony really happy. So.
Oh, thank you.
Well, thank you, beautiful Miriam, Dr. Ghazvani. Thank you for your special leadership. You spoke so eloquently and made the case as to why we have a stake in this democracy. We are hyphenated Americans. I am a first-generation American, and you're absolutely correct. My father was born in Iran. My mother made her first communion in that region. And so we have deep roots, not only where we come from, but also the love that immigrants, in this case, my grandparents, my parents, the stake that they have in the United States of America. They had a love affair with America and always honoring their roots, their culture, their traditions. That's what has re-energized America one generation after another. So Miriam, thank you for inviting me to this event and for sponsoring the event along with the Grassroots Dems headquarters of California, and to Tony Kushaba, Best Majanuk. Tony had the vision to found and to stand up the Assyrian Democrats of the Bay Area. So as I said, I'm a little self-conscious about my Assyrian because that I'm with you today. So this is broken Assyrian, but I think that you know that I say it be chula libi. I am so proud of what you've accomplished, Tony, and so thrilled to have worked with you. You know that I will stand with you to not only in standing the club up, but to do everything I can in support of the effort. Thank you to the Assyrian Democrats of Stanislaus County, the Iranian American Democrats of San Diego, each one of you for sponsoring this very important meeting. I'm thrilled to be with you, and it really is an honor. It's an honor to be with you. Well, it has been more than quite a year. I think that it is safe to say that our entire country, all of our communities have been subjected to a real stress test. But we are a resilient people. And I think that every generation of Americans have been called to meet challenges. None of us asked for this, but we have to respond to the challenge. And so the work that all of the Democrats did to elect a Democratic president, I think really one of the singularly most decent, compassionate, experienced individuals, Joe Biden. I pray for him every day because our country needs him and his leadership. And also, you help produce a majority in the House of Representatives and in the Senate. And we have been working day and night and day to meet the challenges of the pandemic, of the challenges to our democracy. Let me just put it this way. On Sunday, January 3rd, 2021, we raised our hand to defend and protect our democracy against all enemies, foreign and domestic. And 3 days later, there was a domestic challenge to our democracy. I will take that experience with me to my grave. They came so close. They came so close to unraveling the election, and the attack on our Capitol is something that none of us will ever forget. So now the Democrats, under the leadership in the House of Speaker Nancy Pelosi, who appointed a select committee to investigate that attack on our democracy, the attack on the temple of our democracy, the Capitol of the United States. We have worked, as I said, day and night to meet the challenge of this pandemic, to set up a platform of distribution for all of the vaccines. We are now a country that is, I think, really, well, other countries wish they had what we had in terms of the vaccines. We want to meet the challenge of protecting the vote. The Speaker has called us back to be in session starting a week from tomorrow, where we will take up the John Lewis Voting Rights Act. You all know that the Supreme Court really gutted the heart of the Voting Rights Act, and so we have to repair that. We have yet another challenge, and that is to come up with the votes for an infrastructure package over $1 trillion to help rebuild our country with American workers, producing 650,000 American jobs. And this is something that is at the heart of what the president, what Joe Biden campaigned on, but also the American Families Act. So we have our hands full. I'm not going to go through all of the bills that we have passed, but I think it's an honor roll of legislation that will really close the gap between the top 1% in our country. The inequality in our society is, I think, one of the greatest challenges we have. So all of our legislation is designed to meet that challenge. Now, speaking of challenges, we have a great one here in California. I think that what was covered in the opening was really superb. It was excellent. These top two candidates, this Lawrence Elder and John Herman Cox, this is foolishness. This is foolishness, but it's very dangerous. What the Republicans are doing with this, and they call themselves different things, a libertarian and all of that. These are veils over their faces. What they are attempting to do with this recall is they know that they cannot win a statewide general election. And so they have all of these excuses They have no legislative agenda for the people of California. This is, as Miriam said, this is very serious. I always think of my work in the following way, that I hold people in the palm of my hand. They may not have ever heard of me, don't know what I'm doing, but everything I do and the words in the legislation that I vote for, those words walk directly into people's lives, whether it's the health care that they can receive or cannot, whether families will be able to have an economic future that is bright for them. No matter where I have traveled in the world, in the smallest villages, the largest cities, regardless of where the country is in this world, the people want the same things. They want an opportunity for themselves and their families. They want to be able to have a home. They want to be able to educate their children. And they want to be able to retire in dignity and not be dependent on their children. Those are the hopes and aspirations of the people of our country. And those that are not in the middle class, they aspire to climb that ladder and be a part of the middle class. These fools whose names are on the ballot and these two so-called leading figures have absolutely nothing to offer to the people of California. My friends, we are part of and citizens of a nation state. I think it was mentioned in the very beginning that if we were a nation, we would be the 5th largest economy in the world. Neither one of these characters or anyone else whose name is on the ballot has any understanding or capacity or any kind of a record that says, I know how to lead this nation state and its great economy, whether it is the Central Valley of California, which is the most productive agricultural valley in the world. I get to represent most of Silicon Valley. They know nothing about innovation, how to keep it going. So no matter what sector we examine in the state of California, whatever the issues are that are part of those sectors, they don't speak to any of that. They're really like clowns on a stage, you know, carrying a bear around and a stage around. And they are, as was said earlier, they are anti-vaxxers. They don't respect science. They don't believe in what has brought about the viciousness of climate change or how to address it. They are not serious-minded people. What they are serious about, though, is to take over the government of the state of California. And who stands in the breach? Each one of us. And the organizations that you have given so much of your time and thought and energy to. So this is very serious. This is very serious. I received my ballot in the mail on Friday. I filled it out right away. It's very simple. I just voted no on the recall, signed my envelope, drove to the post office and put it in the mailbox. So that's the work that we are charged with. If any of you are thinking, we no sooner get one election and one effort under our belt and done, and job well done, and bravo to each one of you and to everyone collectively, that we have another challenge. But that's the work of democracy. The work of democracy is really unending. Each one of us has a stake in this. That's what citizenship calls for. That's what citizenship calls for. I think that each one of you and the clubs that you belong to can speak with a very attractive story. I've never been ashamed in any way, shape, or form to talk about who I come from, where they came from, and what motivated them to be great and good citizens of this country. Our ancestors gave us, they were role models. They were role models. They knew what hard work was. They were willing to do that work. And they understood what the promise of this country is about. There was no foolishness to them whatsoever. They sacrificed mightily to come to a new country, to learn a new language, to blend their culture with their neighbors that surrounded them. And what they did was really magical because they helped build the communities. They were willing to give back and inspire those around them as they helped build their American dream. But they had an investment that others were willing to make in this democracy. People that were willing to run for office, people that were willing to do, if I might say, the grunt work that it takes to get out there and to really build important efforts to get good, decent people over the line so that they would make decisions that would be worthy of the people that they're representing. So to Tony, thank you for being the builder that you are. To Dr. Miriam Ghazvani, you are eloquent and elegant in every way. I love to hear you speak and talk about what motivates you. You make me feel very special. I want you to know that it's humbling. It's humbling to hold this office, to do the work that needs to be done so that all of us collectively, we can say to our children, our children's children, that in our day and in our time that we met the challenge. So my friends, I have every confidence that we are going to turn this terrible effort. The Republicans are always talking about being the guardian of the tax dollar. Do you know that over $250 million is being wasted on this effort? They don't talk about that. They don't want any of us to talk about that either. So we need to turn this effort on its heels. And I have every confidence that we will. But know that this is a close call right now in the polls. It's very dangerous. So it's really up to us. It's really up to us. So to Bill James, who chairs the party in Santa Clara County, to each one of you that are members of the clubs, I'm so proud of you. I'm so grateful that you are willing to work in the vineyard, to do the work that needs to be done. Again, that we can say we are the defenders of democracy and the guardians at the gateway of democracy. We can do this. We know how. We know who. We have the numbers. We have the people. We need to, really be willing to make the charge, to go forward like soldiers in a battle. And on September 14th, we can all celebrate together. So Chulohun Avitun Rabba Basima for being willing to do this. I love all of you and I thank all of you. God bless you. Thank you again.
Congresswoman Eshoo, thank you so much for your incredibly inspiring words and giving us all the morale boost I think we needed ahead of this election. This is truly an effort where it's all hands on deck. We're all going to be hitting the phones, text banking, phone banking, canvassing, tabling. This is our chance to really make sure we do defend our democracy and defend Governor so he can keep leading us through this pandemic and the challenges yet to come. So thank you so much for joining us today. And you are so appreciated. And of course, for your constant support of the Iranian and the Assyrian groups within the Bay Area and beyond.
Mona, I wanted to introduce Sudi, who just joined us a few minutes ago. Sudi and us and some other people from California Democrats have formed the Iranian American Democrats of California.
Wonderful.
So that is really a great thing, and we are looking forward to kind of be like an umbrella and pull all of these organizations in to create something like a consortium and hopefully take it out to other states as well. So Sudi, just say a couple of words. I'm sorry, Mona, I kind of interrupted, but I saw her in. I just wanted Anna Eshoo to meet her.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it, and for the inspiring words and the work that we all have to do. And I think that what happens in California not only impacts us, obviously, locally, but at nationwide. And today that we have such a incredibly heartbreaking day for Afghanistan and people of Iran and in the Middle East, and the fall of the Afghan wishes and all the catastrophe that will follow. So definitely the Iranian American community is involved. We are assimilated and we're part of this democratic process, and we will do our best to make sure that we stop this waste of money recall.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Thank you, Sudi Jun. It's always a pleasure to see you, and thank you for all the work that you're doing. Next we have on the agenda is Mr. Bill James. He is the chair of the Democratic Party of Santa Clara County, and he will be speaking on what is a recall, how does it work, why is the governor being recalled, and what makes this recall so different.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Mana. I also want to, first of all, I want to thank Anna Eshoo for her kind words. Not everyone knows Anna Eshoo is a former county Democratic Party chair. So early in her political career, she was the chair of the San Mateo County Democratic Party. So she knows the work that all of you are doing through your clubs. She knows the on-the-ground organizing work and the importance of that. And I also would know from that role that a lot of time our activists are great helps to us because they are self-starters and they organize new efforts and they bring people in and they do the work, and others complain more than they do, and those can take down a lot of time when you're a county chair. And I can say that of all the leaders on this call, Tony and Mariam and Susan and others are completely in the former category. You're doers and helpers and have really been a great joy to work with as a Democratic Party chair, so thank you. Anna Eshoo also is a key leader in the House. She's very humble, as you can see, but she is personally friends with the Speaker and has been on the Speaker's team from the very beginning. They helped define the Democratic majority in the House the first time and the second time Nancy Pelosi became Speaker. And thank you, Anna Eshoo, for that work, because I know that that's a constant effort to keep our Democrats in power so that we can move the legislative agenda that you referred to. So thank you so much for being here. I want to join Sudi in acknowledging the concern and pain and maybe even frustration and anger that folks on the call may be feeling about the situation in Afghanistan. I know that I'm sad to see what's happening. It's very painful to think about the future for girls and women in Afghanistan after all these years and the effort that went into it. And I hope that the U.S. and the international community will not will not stop fighting for the rights of Afghans to be free, and particularly for women and girls in Afghanistan. I know that Iranian Americans and Assyrian Americans understand well from the being either personally involved in or connected to the refugee experience, and how difficult and challenging it is to be displaced, and also just to be honest and open with you and to acknowledge it, that the imperfection of American policy has in many cases exacerbated and fallen short of what we all as Americans, and I include all of us in that sentiment, would hope for our country. So it's a sad day, and we will have to work on that. And one thing that we do have a slightly more in our control today is this recall election, and that's what we're going to focus on, I guess, in this call. I have learned in my role as county party chair as well that it's very important to work on multiple fronts. You can't give up on the one effort because you're focused on the other, and you can do all of these things at once. You can be a person who's empathetic and strongly engaged in concerns for Afghanistan and fight this recall, and we definitely have to do both. I'm going to share some screens. I don't want to take too much time with this, but I was asked to explain kind of what it's all about, and I think that I'll just preview. I think that the greatest risk to our Democratic side is our apathy and confusion. We have to get Democrats activated, so we have to raise their level of concern and engagement on this election, and then we have to empower folks like all of us on this call to help clear up and avoid confusion, so that people do the right thing on the recall. So I'm going to see if I have the power to share this. So I am Bill James. I'm going to go through these fast enough so that we don't take a lot of time on them. But this is the how our side started on this recall. The governor's team correctly ascertained and determined in January that this January 6th insurrection that Dana Eshoo spoke about is completely related to the recall effort in California. National Republicans spent a bunch of money. They saved a very haphazard effort that was unlikely to get on the ballot by at a critical time supporting it. So these are national Republicans trying to disrupt the effectiveness of our government in a democratic state. So that's something we definitely have to stand up to. So the theme of the campaign has been to stop the Republican recall, in part just to signal in a pithy and efficient way to Democrats that this is Republicans trying to snag and take over the government in California through a less democratic process than our regularly scheduled elections. So fortunately, one surprise that we had in the spring, or one happy occurrence, was that the budget had about $100 billion, or maybe it was $80 billion of surplus, because the economy did a little better in the pandemic than projections. And that allowed the governor to highlight some of the things that Democrats do when we have power. The governor invested money in the economic recovery. In addition to the federal money that was going directly to working families, he directed additional money to directly by checks to most California families, and by earned income tax credits to low-income families. And those things can transform and protect the most vulnerable, and they can lift people up from poverty. So we're hopeful about those actions. And these are accomplishments that our governor has made most recently. Also, additional investment on homelessness and housing, transforming public schools into gateways for opportunity. He's invested in the community colleges. A lot more kids have the ability to go to community colleges for free. And every child in California should have that opportunity to attend college. We're investing in infrastructure, and we're investing in money to combat wildfires. So these are things that a Democratic governor can do, and none of these things would happen, and they certainly wouldn't happen on this scale if we had any of these replacement candidates, because the Republicans don't believe in it, and then all of the others who call themselves Democrats or independents have no government experience. They wouldn't know how to make these things happen. So here's the details. The election is set for Tuesday, September 14th. It was frustrating to a lot of us as activists that there was uncertainty as to when the election was going to happen. Then all of a sudden it was going to happen quickly, and we've had to scramble and get organized. So we've been doing that. There are 46 replacement candidates on the ballot. And as the Congresswoman alluded to, vote-by-mail ballots are being mailed now. So some people have received them because they got dropped a little early. And in the coming week, everybody should get their vote-by-mail ballot. And then you can return it by mail, no postage necessary, as Congresswoman Eshoo said she did with her ballot, but you can also put them in drop boxes, which are going to be available from the very beginning. Everybody would have gotten a voter guide that lists where the drop boxes are. And also vote centers starting on September 4th, and then really ramping up the weekend before. And the opening dates and locations, again, are in the voter guide that a voter would have received. I know all of you are the folks that people will ask because you're involved in politics. Your friends, members of your church, members of your community will ask you, what are we supposed to do about this? It's confusing. I'm hoping that I'll help you have the information so that you can guide them. We still have voter registration deadlines in California because one bit of the law still calls for that. So the regular registration deadline is August 30th. If people register by then, they should be able to vote a regular ballot in the recall. But conditional registration is available up until election day. So if you become aware of somebody who's moved from one location to another or moved between states and they haven't yet gotten around to registering because they weren't sure that there was going to be, they didn't realize there was going to be an off election, they can register anytime up until election day. You just do a conditional registration, vote a provisional ballot, and assuming they were entitled to register, the vote will be counted. So these are the keys that we see to victory. One is getting people to recognize that the governor has been a strong leader in this pandemic. It's been ups and downs because the pandemic is complicated and the virus is adaptive. And so we haven't gotten exactly everything right, but there has been we've had more strict restrictions in times when we've needed to do that. We have loosened those restrictions to allow the economy to thrive. It's a very careful balance, a very difficult one to navigate. And the governor and his team have done pretty well. As I mentioned, we have a $100 billion surplus in part because the economy is doing better than people expected. The accomplishments as governor, I alluded to some of those earlier. California's values, there is not a single good replacement candidate on this ballot. There's not one. Some of them call themselves Democrat, but there's nobody who's qualified to be governor, nobody who shares California's values. We do not want a minority governor in charge in California. We have the votes as Democrats to win this, but we have to get our Democrats to vote. And so the no vote turnout among Democrats is the key. And getting Democrats to recognize it for what it is. It's a national level event. It's Republicans at the national level trying to give Democrats a black eye and cause chaos and disruption in California because we have an effective, well-working Democratic Party government, and they hate that because, as Eshoo mentioned, we are the 5th biggest economy in the world. We're the 5th biggest economy like among countries in the world, and if we can thrive so well with a good democratic government, it shows that that Democrats could rule anywhere. And then finally, the replacement candidates, as I mentioned, there's not a single qualified person that I would vote for in that group. So risk factors, COVID's a risk factor. We know that that's in resurgence because of the Delta variant. I think the governor has handled that well and continues to navigate it well. Most recently, there was the requirement for vaccination among teachers, and there's previous rulings or orders of that nature about healthcare workers. But when people are concerned about things like COVID, people who are not as engaged in politics as us, it can be hard for an incumbent to be protected. Droughts and wildfires. We've got a drought going on. We've got wildfires around the state. These, again, are things that make people wonder if things are going in the right direction, if things are okay. It would be bad if the economy were to stall, but at this point, I don't think we're going to see anything like that. There's the French Laundry problem, which is that, didn't wear a mask when he went to some celebration at the French Laundry. It was a bad mistake. It's the sort of thing as a politician, it can be hard to move on from, but he's acknowledged it, taken responsibility for it. And it's a blip in his service as governor. And then finally, things like people focusing on unemployment insurance problems and the disaffected left, people thinking they're going to get a better, more liberal governor by recalling Newsom, which I think people can see isn't going to happen. But the big factor for us in terms of risk is confusion. And the reason is this ballot. So this is the Santa Clara County version of this ballot. And I'm sorry that it's probably small on your screen, but it's a two-sided ballot. And you may remember, those of you who voted in 2003, remember the Gray Davis one, and the yes/no question on the recall was way up in the corner, and then all the candidates were listed, and people thought that maybe the ballot design worked against Gray Davis. But here you can see that if you want Gavin Newsom to remain governor, the place to express that is right here in the middle. See, we have these instructions, and then the first voting block is here in the middle, and to me, it's blurred a little bit with the instructions. If you look at it closely, though, you want to put a no in this little oval if you want to keep Gavin Newsom, which is what we want people to do. So we want to say, no on question 1 and be done, or no and go, these different ideas to get people to realize that if they support the Democrats and support Gavin Newsom, they just want to vote no. But I don't like the ballot design, at least this one, because look, the thing that draws your eye is this thing that seems to be urging people to vote for replacement candidates, but our side is saying don't vote for replacement candidates. So I don't like that very much. Way down here in smaller text, it says vote both sides, which if you read that, you'd realize you should vote this question. but I worry about it. And then on the back, you can see that the replacement candidates are listed. Again, there's not a good candidate here, but of course, Gavin Newsom isn't listed here because the law says he can't be. And you can't write him in because the law says you can't. So those are questions that come up, but it kind of looks like we're supposed to pick somebody from one of this group. This looks more like a traditional ballot for candidate office, right? And I think there's some risk that people will mistakenly think that they should vote for someone on this side. So what are we doing about this? This is going on up and down the state. County Democratic parties, the state Democratic Party, Swing Left, Indivisible, all of our entire coalition is coming together to work against this recall. The Grassroots HQ, which I think is participating in this event. Action.sccdp.org is our place. Tony, I saw put it in the chat very helpfully. And Iranian American Democrats and Assyrian Democrats in Santa Clara County have been stepping up and getting involved in all of the actions that we're doing. Those include phone banks. I'm very proud of the fact that we're calling into Santa Clara County, but we're also calling into Kings County in partnership with the Kings County Democratic Party. We're working together on that because Kings County is a small county. It's slightly more Republican majority, but they have an active Democratic Party with solid activists and they need support. So we're providing infrastructure and organizing capacity to work together to elect Democrats in Santa Clara County and in Kings County. And we think that's going to pay off when we come to House races in 2022. Even better, we're starting to call no party preference voters in Kings County and Kern County. And those two counties, you may know, have big chunks of the district that TJ Cox held and unfortunately lost in 2020. So we're hoping to win that one back in 2022. Currently, we're going to do that by calling these voters in Kings County, trying to identify the no party preference voters who lean Democrat and usually vote Democrat, and meanwhile, encouraging them to vote no on the recall. We're really proud of this program because it shows that doing things on a small scale, but can inspire a lot of people and really become effective. So we've got enough people. I can't do the numbers. Maybe it's 150 people, each of whom have taken on 100 neighbors' households, their own neighbors, and we made a door hanger, printed it. It's two-sided English and Spanish, and also English and Vietnamese in a smaller quantity, because that covers a lot of the non-English speaking other language speakers in Santa Clara County. And we're asking people, don't try to do 5,000, start with 100. And some folks have taken on their 100 and have come back and said, that was easy, I can do 100 more. And this is getting Democrats to visit doors. And we need to do that. We didn't do it in 2020 responsibly because of COVID. And I think we suffered for it as a party. So we're trying to get out there and visit voters. And then this is just a single day, but it's our kickoff blitz, Saturday, August 21st. In a week, obviously, we're going to be working with organized labor and the California Teachers Associations, and this shows the way we work as Democrats in coalition with labor, in coalition with resistance groups and other organizing groups, in coalition with clubs like yours to be effective in elections. And again, action.sccdp.org is the place to sign up. And I'm going to take questions when the organizers say that is appropriate, because I know you've got a couple of speakers today. So thank you very much for your attention. And thank you for all you do. And thank you for stepping up to do this work, because it's critical.
Thank you, Bill, for that very informative and in-depth presentation, as well as action items people can take on, even within their own community. You're right, starting on a smaller scale, and you got when a lot of people take on to it, you can reach thousands of doors, literally. So thank you for all that you and the Santa Clara County Democratic Party are doing to combat this recall effort. Next, we have on the agenda, we have Nima Rahimi, who is an ADEM delegate and e-board member of the California Democratic Party, and he'll be speaking on behalf of the California Democratic Party in their efforts to stop the recall and why this recall is different.
Hi, folks. Thanks for being here. So a lot of the talking points have covered extensively the reasoning behind why we're fighting this recall so aggressively. The California Democratic Party is completely united from the top echelons of the executive committees and the executive officers down to the grassroots activists. We're seeing unity in the Democratic Party in a way that is historically unparalleled. I want to talk about something that I haven't heard mentioned yet during today's meeting. The governor of California has appointment power for the United States Senate if and when a senator decides to retire or passes away or something unexpected happens. And our majority in the Senate today is by a very thin margin. And one of the most important reasons that we have to make sure that Governor Newsom stays in power is if, God forbid, a Republican wins this seat, and Senator Feinstein, who is pushing her late 80s at this point, decides to retire, we do not want a Republican to have the ability to appoint a Republican senator, shifting the balance of power in the U.S. Senate and completely derailing Joe Biden's agenda. And to me, this is one of the most important facts about this recall. Is President Biden has a narrow window to ensure that our democracy can survive what the Republican Party and Trumpism is trying to do to this country. And that's essentially pushing a white supremacist agenda, destroying the United States democracy in favor of a dictatorship. And if we lose the balance of power in the Senate and Joe Biden's agenda gets derailed, then our opportunity, whether it's in the Senate or in the House of Representatives or in the presidency, to get our democracy back on track goes away. So that's why the California Democratic Party, from grassroots activists to our executive officers, are completely united. We're on the phones, we're sending texts, we're sending emails, we're holding meetings to ensure that everybody knows to just vote no. Just vote no. Don't worry about the second question. Tell your friends, tell your neighbors, tell your family to just vote no. Thanks for being here.
Thank you, Nima, for joining us today and for bringing up that very, very, very important point. If, God forbid, a Republican does win this, should Senator Feinstein decide to step down, we will lose the United States Senate. So thank you for bringing that up. I think that's a very important action point to get people activated and into the phone banks and text banks, postcards, etc. And so now I would like to introduce all of our co-sponsors who had very kindly joined us today and helped promote this event and brought in their members to attend this event. First, I'd like to introduce Naram Samgoria, who will be speaking on behalf of both Assyrian Democrats of the Bay Area and Assyrian Democrats of Stanislaus County.
Thank you so much, Mana, and thank you for everyone that is participating in this event. It's very crucial that we vote no on this recall, and so many great points and different types of interpretations of why this recall is terrible for our democracy. We appreciate this, and this is definitely going to get back to much of our members. My name is Naram Sangoriel. Thank you, Mana, for the introduction. I'm a delegate in Region 4, and I'm also the president of the Assyrian Democrats of Stanislaus County. I'm also friends with Tony Khoshaba, who's an amazing organizer himself and did a wonderful job of quickly organizing the Assyrian Democrats, the Bay Area and Santa Clara County. We appreciate all of the Democrats in Santa Clara County. You guys have been so helpful and supportive of Congressmember Josh Harder, who is now our Democrat congressman. So without the help of our Bay Area Democrats, we would not be where we're at today. So thank you so much for all that you guys do. And I would just like to point out that not only are Republicans negotiating in bad faith, regardless of what the topic is, they are just really focused on distracting, obstructing, and destroying anything that could help people, anything that could give vulnerable and overlooked communities an upper hand. And this recall is exactly a part of that plan. They just want to distract people from actually the good things that our governor has done and actually the good condition our state is in. And they want to obstruct the progress being made, and they want to destroy it by, as Congressmember Eshoo said, one of these clowns on the stage who will basically do whatever corporate interest permits them to do. And we need to stop that. So we will do everything and anything in our power to have Stanislaus County vote no on this recall. We have people out at parks right now passing around signs against this recall, and anything we can do to help our governor and help the Democratic Party survive this recall and help push forward our democracy. This is pointless because next year is an election. It's a waste of money. We all know this. So let's do our best to get the vote out and get people to vote no. And thank you so much for allowing the Assyrians at Stanislaus County to participate in this. It's wonderful to see so many like-minded people on a Zoom call.
Thank you, Nams, and we appreciate your allyship and your willingness to draw in. And as someone also from the Central Valley, from Stockton, so good to see our county represented. Good stuff. Thank you, Nams. And now I'd like to introduce Moz. Moz, hold on, I forgot to write down your last name, and I so apologize. Moz Hadeh, thank you. And who will be speaking on behalf of the Iranian Democrats of San Diego.
Thank you. Thank you very much for the opportunity. Can you guys hear me okay? Awesome. Thank you for the opportunity to show our unity with you guys. I'm the recently elected president of the Iranian American Democrats of San Diego, and we've been active since 2004 after George W. Bush's re-election. And we've been quite active on this recall campaign and pushing against it. And like everybody else here, we've been doing phone banking and texting in order to defeat it. I'm not sure that there's much more I can add. I think we've had such great speakers here and offering their perspectives. I'll offer my perspective as someone who is more on the skeptical side of party politics. And that is to say that I often feel like the Democratic Party is not doing enough and they should be doing more and should be fighting harder. I'm dead set against this recall because it's purely anti-democratic. And we're, you know, whatever we might think of Gavin Newsom, we know what the replacement will be far, far worse, and the result will be anti-democratic. So I join you guys in unity to defeat this awful recall and get us back into a mode of making good policies instead of this clown show. Thank you.
Thank you, Moz, for joining us as well, and thank you for offering your perspective. Lastly, I will be speaking on behalf of the Grassroots Democrats HQ. So the Grassroots Democrats HQ, our mission is to defend the blue, which means expand our House and Senate majorities, keep the White House blue, and also keep key state legislatures blue. In this case, we're also jumping into California, even though recall efforts typically are not in our purview. This one is very important. As a Los Angeles-based organization, it's imperative that we continue to see California stay blue as one of the most important key state legislators in the country. California has always set the example, and typically other states or even the country follow the example that we set with the policies that we put in place thanks to our democratic legislature. So the HQ has plenty of opportunities to get involved. I will go into more detail after the Q&A, but in the meantime, I will go ahead and put our website and link tree into the chat for opportunities for everyone to start volunteering and getting involved, from phone banking to tabling toolkits phone banking, tabling toolkits, relational organizing, yard signs, and just general toolkits about talking points and how else you can get your own personal networks involved. We have got you covered. And so that is what the HQ is up to for the recall. And now, since we have reached the end, we are going to start our Q&A. So if you have any questions for any of our speakers, please feel free to put them into the chat, and we will ask the speaker who can answer it to answer it. Or you can raise your hand as well, and we'll call on you. That might be a bit easier. All right, Rebecca, hello.
Everyone, saying hi from Oregon, Eugene, Oregon. I'm a former Californian, but I'm still love California. So I am involved with politics in California, even though I'm not physically there. I'm emotionally there. But my question is about the People's Act, the voting rights. My concern is everybody is talking about that. You know, if we even pass that hurdle and pass the Voting Act in Congress, we know certainly that it will be overturned by the Supreme Court, what is the Democratic Party's strategy is after that? Because we know that, I mean, I talked to many constitutional lawyers and everybody is pretty certain that it will overturn by the court. What will be doing after that? Why we're not concerned with the Supreme Court at this point? Thank you.
Thank you, Rebecca. And I want to give Rebecca a shout out. She's been phone banking and writing postcards with the Grassroots Democrats HQ to stop the recall all the way from Oregon. So thank you for the work that you're doing. Is there a speaker who feels prepared to answer this question? Bill, I noticed.
Well, I think that Mariam is probably more qualified, but my own view, I happen to be a lawyer. I'm a patent lawyer. The Supreme Court, you know, we've lost that for maybe a generation, to be honest with you, and that's going to be a point of great difficulty for democratic movements. You know, instead of the 5-4 kind of centrist or liberal majority that we should have, if Obama had gotten to make his pick, and if the revered Ruth Bader Ginsburg had hung on another few months, we have this 6-3 majority that's really far out of step with the values of American society on many issues, including apparently voting rights. I think that that's why I think we hear a lot more talk about the filibuster and reforming the filibuster than doing anything with the Supreme Court. But unfortunately, I think voting is one of these problems and one of these policy issues where people have to see the negative consequences and maybe even experience some of the consequences themselves before there's enough of a movement to take the steps needed to protect them. With these things that the Republican legislatures have been doing, they're so bad for democracy and for Democrats. It might take an election cycle or two for people to see how bad they are and how little help we're going to get from the Supreme Court in terms of you know, they're basically not less than helping. They've eviscerated the Voting Rights Act. We have to be able to get voting protections through the Congress and signed by the president. And I think that's where people are a little bit more hopeful. But we're going to be fighting about the Supreme Court for a long time. There's very significant things that will be happening with reproductive freedoms. And for young people on this call, we're going to have to organize to really have the decent society that we deserve. And I don't think the Supreme Court's going to be an ally.
Thank you, Bill. Does anyone else want to, Mariam, do you want to add on?
Yeah, no, I was just going to ask Bill. I'm not saying you know the answer to this, but my question is, where were Democrats? Were we all asleep? I mean, I wasn't a Democrat until, you know, who got into office, you know that. Mm-hmm. But where were they? I mean, it's like they were asleep, and then the Republicans took over 33 states of assembly and their senates. I mean, what happened? It's almost like they've been working on it for 20 years, but nobody noticed it.
I think it's, I mean, a couple of things happened. One is that sadly, I mean, we're going through major changes in the country, and I do think that the trends will continue to be in our favor. I think that, you know, there's been a lot of conservative reaction to the demographic change in our country, a lot of fear. And truthfully, I think electing Barack Obama as president galvanized their kind of, you know, white supremacist movement and their racial insecurity to the point where they've been working on it, and we haven't. You know, I think a lot of us felt we just elected Barack Obama and it seemed like we turned a corner. Like, you know, he often talks about the arc of history bending toward justice, which I believe. I'm an optimist and a hopeful person, just like Barack Obama. But meanwhile, Mitch McConnell was fairly ruthlessly keeping the government from doing anything, and including by keeping President Obama from filling a Supreme Court seat that under the Constitution he had a right to fill. And I think we, you know, the legislatures has been going on for a generation, at least a decade, right? Probably more. We should have been paying more attention to that. We definitely should have fought for that Supreme Court seat. And now with the events that happened since then, I think it's just a setback. That there are proposals, you know, there are proposals to have less than life terms for the justices, because now both sides are appointing ideologically aligned younger and younger justices, and, you know, having somebody sit on the Supreme Court for 40 years doesn't seem very democratic. So there'll be some proposals that will be some room for change.
Thank you, Bill. I do want to note there are a couple of questions coming into the chat for the Congresswoman. The Congresswoman is no longer on the call, but if anyone else is willing to answer these questions, that would be great. We have gotten multiple questions about Afghanistan and why the U.S. pulled out of Afghanistan so prematurely, particularly given the history. Is there a succinct answer for this? Does anyone have an answer?
It's a no-win situation.
The alternative is to just stay there for another 20 years. I don't think that's a good answer either.
Hello, this is Susan Mantiegi Safagush, an activist and been active with Santa Clara County Dem and State Party for over 12, 13 years. All I have to say is this started back in 2017 when Pompeo and Trump, they released over, I think, 50,000 or so number of Taliban prisoners because they didn't want to make peace with Iran and all the Afghanistan neighbors, which are China, Iran, and of course he liked Russia, but still they didn't like Russian siding Iran. Anyway, and that's when they decided to release all these Talibans. Remember, 50,000 is huge number. I think the number is between 20 to 50. I'm going to post that article going back that far back. And the problem is Biden did not change route and they followed the US policy going back to Pompeo and Trump time. That's the only problem we have. That's all I have to say.
Thank you, Susan Jun and Nima Jun, for your perspectives on the situation. Maury, I see you have your hand raised. If you're speaking, you're muted.
Here it is. Okay. Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you.
I have a complaint with the Democratic Party of California regarding this recall law on the books. It's a bad law, and I know it takes quite a while to change the law, but I think we should take, our Assembly and Senate in California should take the initiative to change this stupid law. Excuse my French, but it is a stupid law all around. And I don't know why we don't do it, even though we have the majority in the House and in the Assembly and the Senate.
I'll take that one. Maury, I agree with you. It's a stupid law, and that's so succinct. We should really make that the motto when we come back to deal with it. I tell people, we're telling them to vote no on the one side and ignore the other side. That's a stupid setup too. That whole structure is stupid. And so we really have to take that on immediately after this recall. I think people thought that as we got to a point of this Democratic majority by 20 points in California, that there wouldn't be enough people signing these petitions to make it happen. I think here it wouldn't have happened if they hadn't gotten a long extension because of COVID and some money from the national people, but we can't risk this happening again. And the reforms that have been suggested include having it be one ballot. Like, I think it would be a sensible thing to have 47 people listed and tell you to pick the person you want to be governor and have Newsom be one of them, right? Then you get to vote for Newsom rather than having to vote no on the one side and ignore the second side. But also, Newsom was elected with this huge majority, and instead of this relatively small number of signatures, maybe the signature should be some kind of proportion to the amount of people who chose him to be governor to begin with. So there's a couple of ideas that have been come forward, and I agree with you. It's a top priority because we can't be expected to do this every 10 or 15 years.
I got very upset when I asked my assembly member here in San Diego, it's District 77, and his response to me was, it's not a good time to do it. I wanted to ask him if this was the Republicans, would they wait a day or two to do it?
Yeah, I respectfully disagree.
Right,
it's the best time to do it because people like you and I have just had this experience of how idiotic it is. So my personal assembly member is Mark Berman. He's the chair of the elections committee in the assembly, and I'm going to make it my mission to ask him to take it up.
Thank you.
Bill, we're cheering on your efforts. It really is.
Anna June, can I add to that real quick?
Of course, Nima, go ahead.
Just an interesting article I read yesterday Erwin Chemerinsky, the dean of the Berkeley School of Law and the preeminent constitutional law professor in the country, wrote an article about how the way the recall is formatted can be unconstitutional because it disenfranchises the voters who are voting for Newsom in the first round. And I think that's part of the campaign strategy. Don't quote me on this, as a personal opinion. It might be the campaign strategy to just vote no and forget about the second question, so that whoever gets the highest votes in the second round, it's going to be so low that the constitutional question is ripe, and Newsom could potentially challenge the constitutionality of the result in court. So, that's an opinion.
Can I add something, Mana?
Go ahead.
Okay, so agree 100% with Maury about this and everybody else here. I think the urgency is now to change this law. It's an anti-democratic law. I'm not against recalls. I think there is a case to be made for a recall. There should be an avenue for a recall in a democracy, but the threshold should be extremely high. It should be higher than an election. That's super common sense. And the other thing, my takeaway, I hope the Democratic Party learns from this. And one lesson is that if you look in California, where Republicans essentially have no shot, the party is giving their people a shot. And it's a legitimate shot. And they may not, as people pointed out, they may not only take the governorship, they may take a Senate seat for free. I hope this is a lesson for the Democratic Party to also fight, going back to the theme of what I said, and to be more assertive and to really fight fire with fire. We cannot be losing ground in a state that is as blue as it is and giving Republicans this kind of chance. So we have a super majority in the Assembly and in the Senate. The time to act is now.
As for your perspective as well, and certainly the time to act really is now. Sudi June, I see you have your hand raised.
Yes, I just wanted to follow up on the conversation about Afghanistan, which is something that we all can debate among each other about the history and all of that. But at this point, we're in the recall. And I want to recognize that the situation that has been developing is not helping our cause, because the general sentiment against the Democrat, being that Biden is in the office, is not going to help unless we can get governor to issue a compassionate statement about Afghanistan and reaching out to the Afghan community within California to kind of separate himself from the foreign policy and show more leadership about, the situation and how he's willing to help. I think this is time. I mean, it's very timely. It is needed. This whole thing this rat pack mentality that Democrats have, you all stick up for each other. No, we have to hold each other accountable. We got to stick up and we have to say what is right. And right now, this situation that we woke up into this morning is not going to help Democrats anywhere. And I hope that somehow somebody gets to the governor campaign office and he would issue a statement on this, because it's terrible. Sorry, I'm very emotional today, obviously.
Understandably so, Sudi. Thank you for bringing that up. It could be a great idea. I think the news we all woke up to this morning was just devastating for us all. So thank you for recognizing that and bringing it to the attention here on this call.
Going back, I apologize. I just had to correct my comment. Pompeo and Trump, and during 2017, they released 5,000, not 50,000, 5,000 hardcore Taliban fighters.
Thank you, Susan John, for bringing that up as well. Rebecca, I see your hand raised.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm coming back again. Being a political scientist, I feel like I have a Machiavellian idea. I'm thinking that because we have supermajority in California, why don't California gerrymander? Now, I know that a lot of people will have a pushback on this, but we can get rid of our non-political commission and gerrymander California, just the way the Republicans have done in Texas. Now, why we should do that? We get rid of people like Kevin McCarthy. We don't have to rely so much on the voters that, and we can bring the Republicans on the table to negotiate this. Plus, the Supreme Court said that it was completely legal to gerrymander. So we can also change the thinking of Republican and Supreme Court. And I want to know what the others think of this idea that I have. And I know it's very controversial, but often I think of it and I'm like, why we're not doing it?
Well, I think that you probably know the Democratic Party of California did fight the redistricting commission change in California in court and lost. That's why they're or fought it, and I think they fought it and won. But then Washington State lost a similar case, and California adopted a rule that was similar to the one that had been approved in Washington. So the Democratic Party, tried to have that fight at that time and did not prevail. More recently, it seems like the For the People Act and some of the leadership out of Washington has been, well, let's try to get everybody on these commissions, because then if nobody's gerrymandered, then we'll at least have a level playing field. But I agree that it's unfair and not sustainable for blue states like California to have commissions and no gerrymandering, and for red states to be doing their worst. And that's something where I think good government people, they think that it's best to have everybody have commissions, and maybe the For the People Act will drive us in that direction. But if we don't get that, then maybe we got to go back and figure out if we can get rid of this commission.
Thank you, Bill. Moz, do you have something to add? I noticed you raised your hand right when the question was asked.
Yes, just a comment to Rebecca's excellent question. Just my perspective, I think gerrymandering has the effect of concentrating one party in a particular district. So today we don't gerrymander in California, and we have a supermajority, whether you're talking about the state level or even at the federal level. So I'm not sure that there's much of an upside. But even if you were to do it, I think what you might end up doing is gerrymandering into hardcore Republican districts. You're going to create more extreme Republican, maybe fewer, but more extreme Republican districts. And I'm not sure that that's what we want either. So I'm all for the People Act, and I hope the Democrats find a way to get that passed without watering it down, so that, again, we're one step closer to reclaiming our democracy.
Thank you, Moz, for your perspective as well. We have time for one more question, and then we're going to go into action items so everyone can see how they can get involved in stopping the recall. That is, if there is one more question. All right, I'm going to take silence both vocally and in the chat as a indicator to move on to action items. So as we saw, the Santa Clara County Democratic Party has a ton of action items. Bill, if you want to put your link in the chat once more, that would be appreciated, from door knocking to phone banking. Additionally, here at the Grassroots Democrats HQ, we do have a variety of action items as well. I'm going to share my screen real quick so I can show you some of our opportunities to get involved. We have phone banking, tabling/canvassing, postcard writing, and something I really do want to emphasize and give a very brief tutorial on is a new relational organizing tool that you can use to help engage your personal friends and family in the recall effort. So we have phone banking going on 6 times a week. First, let me just start by putting all these links into the chat so you can check them out as I'm speaking about them. We have phone banking, we have postcards. As of Friday, we had written over 161,000 postcards to help stop the recall, going to voters all across the state. We have relational organizing, which I'll go into more detail about in a second. Additionally, we also have the Stop the Recall Toolkit, complete with talking points, graphics, social media points, ways to take action that you can share with your friends and family. We also have this incredible, where is it? Hold on. We have a social media toolkit created by some of the incredible Indivisible leaders, where you can tweet and Facebook directly talking points and action items about the recall as well. Additionally, for people who prefer to be out in their community, we know the people, one of the really effective ways that the people actually got this recall election to be kicked off is by sitting outside of tables in front of Vons, Safeway, farmers markets, etc., and tabling. So at the HQ, we put together a step-by-step tabling toolkit from what is tabling to how you can table, and even printable items that you can use. We have a press print printer in Los Angeles who is giving a very special deal on our items. We have half sheets, or those palm cards you can easily pass out with ways for people to get involved. A fact sheet that has a bunch of information about Governor Newsom's accomplishments. Door hangers, you can literally just walk around your own personal neighborhood and put door hangers on the doors. And we also have posters as well, and postcards. So all of these are available, and I want to note that you can have your logo put onto all of these flyers. If you're like, wait, I want to put the BAIAD logo on this, we got you covered. We can make that happen. Additionally, if you are a group leader and you're like, wait, I want to get involved with all these efforts, we have a form that's also linked into the chat you can fill out, and I'll follow up with you this week. And we also have yard signs available in our swag store that also help fund our recall efforts. But one thing I really do want to highlight for you all today is this relational organizing tool. It's an app called Outreach Circle. The link, I'm going to put the link in the chat. And it makes it so easy for you to contact all of your friends and family and make sure that they're voting no on the recall. So I'm going to share my screen. So it's an app. You log in using that link, or when you download the app, you can enter in the code UBU871, which I also put into the chat. And you can share this ad about the recall. You can also contact your friends and family to tell them to vote no on the recall. So for example, if I want to contact my network, you can email them or text your friends. I'm going to text my friends, and you have a personalized message that you can change. I changed mine to make it sound more like me with my drawn out hi, saying folks instead of friends, etc. When you customize it, you hit done. Then you import your contacts from your personal phone. You can add a contact in manually from your phone, from Google, Yahoo, or Outlook. And after you do that, you can send text messages. So let's say I'm like, you know what, I'm going to text my best friend, Haley, and make sure that she is voting no on the recall. And then I hit, you click on that, and then you hit send, and now she has a link. And when she clicks on that link, she will be able to text her friends and family, and well, she'll be able to click on that link, affirm that she's voting no on the recall, and she can even show which way she is voting on the recall. So it goes into the party database, and the party, the California Democratic Party, will now see that my best friend is voting no on the recall using her vote by mail ballot. But let's say I am talking to my mom, who is on the call. Azad, hi mommy, you can unmute yourself and say hello if you want to. So let's say I'm talking to my mom, and I'm like, you know what? I want to make sure the party knows my mom is voting no on the recall. So I put in her first name, her last name, and then her zip code. I search, and that's my mom. And Maman, can you unmute yourself? Do you know how to unmute yourself? I don't think she does. It's okay. But I know my mom, since she loves Governor Gavin Newsom, is going to vote no on the recall. So she will put no on the recall. Then I hit next. And my mom is an incredible vote by mail voter, and she's going to vote for this recall by mail. And then you hit that and you hit submit. And now the party knows my mom is going to vote no on the recall. And you can use this as you're tabling, as you're talking to your friends and family, etc. And also you can sign up to phone bank. So you just scroll to the bottom, click on register now. You'll be redirected to a mobilize link, and you'll be able to sign up for a phone banking shift. There will be other opportunities added to the Outreach Circle app in the coming days. But in the meantime, go ahead, download Outreach Circle using either that link, and then once you log in, log in using that code, and you too can start engaging your network. And I want to emphasize that this is really important because our community, particularly Iranian Americans, we like, as Maddie Amjoon was saying, oh man, I don't have anything to do with politics, but politics will always have something to do with you. And this app is a great way for you to engage your own network, make sure your friends and family know how they're voting no, and how they intend to submit their ballot. And that way we can make sure that the party knows that Iranian Americans and Assyrian Americans like us are engaged, and we are doing the work of engaging our communities. And they see this because it goes directly into their database. So I urge all of you to not just sign up for phone banking, for postcards, etc., but at the very least, engage your personal networks by using Outreach Circle. And that is the ways we have to get involved. Any questions about that? All right. Thank you, Sinan. Thank you, everyone, for your comments in the chat. And as Mariam said, thank you all for coming. And now let's go do the work. Once again, I want to thank all of our incredible phone co-sponsors. Bay Area Iranian American Democrats for hosting, Assyrian Democrats of the Bay Area, Iranian American Democrats of San Diego, Assyrian Democrats of Stanislaus County, and the Grassroots Democrats HQ. I'd like to thank all of our speakers, Shahriar Afshar, Mariam Ghazvini, Congresswoman Anna Eshoo, Bill James, Nima Rahimi, Naram Sangoriel, Maz Hadaer, and everyone else for joining this call. And once again, I urge you all to take action, phone bank, postcard, relational organize, and make sure that you vote no and submit your ballot as soon as possible. Thank you again. Maddie Amjoon, I defer to you.
Thank you and everyone for coming. And I really hope each one of you, if you can get 10 people to vote no, we are going to defeat this. Just 10. I'm not asking you to gather 500 people. And convince them, because some people are really funny. Even my own daughter was saying, Mom, do you think he's going to get defeated? I said, yes, if you don't vote, he's going to. So don't ask those kind of questions. Go do it. Also, Sudijan, I don't know if you mentioned it or not. She has an event coming up for the California Bay Democrats, Iranian Democrats on Wednesday. So if you can, please join us there. Maz Jobrani is going to be there, so you might want to listen to him, or he has a message for all of us, and very nice, great speakers lined up. I want to also mention that most of us here are elected delegates for the Democratic Party. You should get involved. That's at least the level that you can try and get in. When you are in as a delegate or as any kind of official, you have a little bit of a more responsibility. So you can't just sit on the side and say, I don't know, something is happening, but I'm not going to really do anything. So Sudijan really has basically killed herself to line up all those speakers. I encourage you to come, tell your friends. Let's show unity. Let's show everyone that we are united, no matter what our background, what our language, because everybody in Iran has a different language, different background, different city. So what? We are all Iranian. I really don't look at it any differently. So let's unite and don't be me. And that way we can win. If we don't unite, we are going to be scattered all over United States and nobody knows each other. Why? Every other ethnicity I know, immigrants, they're all united except Iranians, unfortunately. But as Bill said, I'm optimist too, until I see something really bad. So hopefully by showing up here, we are going to show up many more places and help each other, support each other. That's the point. I'm going to go to the 18th event, not just for the content, but also I want to support Sudi. Okay.
Thank you so much, Mariam.
No, I'm serious, because I think if Tony has an event, invites me, I want to go not just for the event, but also to show Tony that I am with him and his friends, or Naram San. They have a beautiful house. If anybody wants to stop in Turlock, please go there. So I'm trying to tell you, we all have to unite and do our best to show the politicians that we are a voting bloc. Because every time you go talk to, let's say, Dianne Feinstein, it's because how many is in your voting block? I don't know, maybe 100, because I don't know. Really, I know for sure we have more than 180,000 Iranians, Iranian background in the Bay Area. Now, how many of them are Democrats? I don't know. But I'm sure a significant number of 180,000. This was years ago. Now maybe it's 200,000. I don't know. But how many of them are really know about each other? How many support each other? That is the point. Hormuz Khan, you have the job of the East Bay. So you have to unite all the East Bay people. Anyway, please let's do it. Let's vote no on this event. Join any other events you see coming up because you have a something at stake. Really, show them that you exist. Okay. Thank you so much, Bill. Thank you again. You're always an inspiration to all of us in the Democratic Party anyway. But hopefully we will defeat this recall and go on forward. We've done some, by the way, I was going to mention that I forgot, and Susan forgot too. We did some card writing in the last election, 2020, to candidates that we wanted to win. I mean, their constituents, not the candidates, who were Iranian Democrats, to vote in both in Farsi and in English. And I think that was really instrumental, and we are going to do that again for this one. Okay, so if anybody wants to join us, you can let us know, and we'll send you some cards with the stamps to do that. We'll have everything printed in there anyway. Thank you so much. I don't want to take your time. Thank you for coming, and let's support each other. Don't run away. Don't hide someplace.